Well, I started writing for my hometown newspaper in South Georgia when I was 15, covering my own high school's games, and I just knew I probably had a really modest athletic future as far as playing, so
Right.
probably need to figure out some other way to stay involved in sports. And I knew I wanted to work in sports. I just wasn't sure how. And I had an opportunity when I was in high school to do it, and just kind of fell in love with it. And so pursued that throughout college at Tennessee. And then my first professional opportunity was in Anderson in early 2004. And then you mentioned I was in Augusta, went to Atlanta and covered the Braves for a little bit, and then came back in 2007. So I was in the state of South Carolina for, half of a decade in there in that period of time. And really that's where I learned a lot about beat work and about that particular athletic department program, and watched a lot of things change. Not just the winning that we mentioned, but the aesthetics of the entire place. The at the I think I don't can't remember what it was called at first. The new arena, what it was called at first. I think before it was Colonial Center, but anyway, it was built in 2004, and it was just the start of a real era of change. I feel like all around Columbia and USC. So I grew up the program grew up and kind of in the same time frame. And I love storytelling. You mentioned that, and to be able to be one of the main storytellers for those baseball teams and still have a connection to them. I still talk to Michael Roth a pretty good bit. Congrats on being a new dad to him and Rachel. So I'm excited for them. But it was a really special time in my life in a lot of different ways, and affirmed my decision to be in journalism, and went on from there to Oklahoma and ESPN and all those other stops. And now, as you just learned, I'm completely out of it. I'm completely out of the sports media game for the first time in 20 years. But I can look back, and the memories and experiences I have, like a lot of my very favorite ones would be from that time in Columbia.
Do you feel like it's something, Travis, where you picked it up naturally, or was it something you feel you evolved and really grew as you went on?
A little of both, probably. I think I probably was more inclined. I'm not a math person in any way, shape, or form. So
Right.
I was probably always more inclined to work with words and a little bit of creative content type stuff. And I think I just saw the world that way to begin with whenever I was a young guy. And I don't think I realized it until I really got into it. And then the more I got into it, I fell in love with the quote unquote craft of it, and had mentors who were 5, 10, 15, 20 years older than me that I followed and read and learned from, including people in that state. You mentioned Joe. He was a great mentor as somebody who was a quote competitor, but Joe and I have always been friendly. We still talk. We were athletic teammates there for a little while, me with the Titans, him with the Panthers. And Ken Berger, the late Kim Berger, was a great influence on me, just a great person to be around as a young reporter. And Gene Sapikoff was a great person to learn from as well whenever I was at the Post and Courier. So I was always fortunate, especially in South Carolina, to be around smart, driven, hardworking people who could kind of help me learn the ropes. So whatever natural ability I had was dwarfed by just trying to learn as I went. And just when opportunity came, to know when to seize it. We keep talking about the books, but I just remember leaving Rosenblatt after that first one in 2010 and being like, somebody's going to write a book about this. It might as well be me. And immediately started a plan on that. So I think it's just a willingness to work at it and be different. I think Twitter was a huge piece that allowed me to create a little bit of brand identity in Columbia. And I'm grateful for that, because it was a little tricky. My outlet was in Charleston, but I was living in Columbia. So I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where my audience is. So to be able to connect with Columbia as a community, and I really felt that, like I felt that love from the community because of two things. One was social media, and two was the advent of 107.5 The Game in 2007 as well. So the confluence of those two things, and I got to do a ton of radio, and that allowed me to meet a lot of fans and just really feel like I was a part of the community, even though I worked for a paper 90 miles away.